Hello everybody and welcome to the Sonic Advance playthrough on this channel, the second ever playthrough. Um, we will be playing on the Japanese language. I'm just more comfortable with that for this game. I hope, luckily for you, you don't need to read anything. Um, this will be a 100% Chaos Emerald run. I would not have it any other way. It wouldn't be much of a walkthrough if I didn't. I have practiced this game for about 2 weeks, and this is the run I was the most happy with. The story for this game, I guess. Um, the point of Advance 1 is that there's not really much of a story here. Basically, Dr. Eggman's being a dickhead putting animals into robots. It's up to Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy to stop him. There's not much to say about the story. Advance 2, a little bit more. Advance 3, there's quite a bit. You would actually need to play Sonic Battle to fully get the context for Advance 3. This was the first proper 2D game that wanted to play with the big boys. Like, I would say this is the first, true 2D game after Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Pocket Adventure technically counts as this team's first game, but I would count Advanced as the one that's like, this is a serious attempt at a new 2D Sonic game in the new millennia at that point. So, Sonic Advance, gameplay-wise, it is the Mega Drive games. It is the original trilogy, pretty much to a T, with some slight physics changes, mostly some slope jumping's a little bit fucked with. Like, you'll actually see in the footage here that I actually get away with a really, steep slope jump. Not steep, but like a really shallow, just a little bit, and then I'm able to get off the spring. You're actually about to see it coming up. But you can run, you can jump, you can use the Insta-Shield from 3 and Knuckles. See, look, in the Mega Drive games, that wouldn't have flown. I do show off a little bit in this playthrough. I mostly show you, like, how fast I can really go. Air dashing is one of my favorite things to do. I actually start doing it around here. See, look. You can get a lot of forward momentum. I feel like it's a lot fairer than, say, something like Episode 1. Episode 1, to me, always feels like I got speed too cheap and easy. Get on that fucking rail, Sonic, I swear to God. Rail grinding at Advance 1, this was definitely the team's first time really coming to grips with that in 2D. Advance 2 and Advance 3, well, Advance 2 still has some rough spots, but as long as you were on the hitbox wasn't so precise. Advance 3, you could actually get on the rail and you just jumped off the rail when you were done with it. The special stages, you find springs in the stages, and these special stages are disgustingly difficult. What you're doing is basically skydiving off a snowboard, and there is no depth perception. I have horrible depth perception. This is just rote memorization here, because I failed these stages so many times while practicing. I hadn't played these since about 2014, I want to say. And I'd recorded this about a week ago. I've never been able to time that little orb thing that gives you more rings. I think I get a couple of times later in the playthrough, I'm pretty sure. But it's kind of like Sonic 2's, except a lot more infuriating, as in you go through 2 sections. First section, I believe, was 70 rings, and then second section's 120. Here's a little bounce pad thing. You can only really use it once, I'm pretty sure. There are Lost Chow in here. We'll get into the tiny Chow Garden in the bonus video. Bombs also appear in this special stage. I still can't get that fucking actual trick bonus. Although I do like the animation. I like the concept of these special stages. I just don't think the sprites. Also, I love this jingle. It makes you feel like you really did accomplish something. So we got in the first Chaos Emerald. Chaos Emeralds in this game do not unlock Supersonic in normal gameplay. That is for a last story segment. Technically, this was the second 2D game to really do that, Pocket Adventure being the first, ironically enough, by the same team. I always like to jump off the spring right here to always get myself a little jump start. And we're already done with Act 1. I guess I should talk about my personal experience with this game, since there's no special stages in this particular act. I had gotten this game when I was about, I want to say 5. And I had already played the Mega Drive games for a few years at that point, like about 2 years, because the Mega Drive games were some of my first games ever. But I was like, oh yeah, this is like Sonic the Hedgehog 4. I mean, in my heart, it's still very much. I would tell you something like Manny, I think, is more, I guess, earning of the title of Sonic 4, but I'd say this was a really good, like, stopgap. Unfortunately, I do take a hit at the coming boss right here. I do lose my shield. I know I may as well just scrap the whole fucking run. I know I got hit, sue me. Here's the B move. It's like a somersault from SA2. It's basically fucking pointless. Say Tails is tail swipe and Knuckles is punching actually do a lot better, and then Amy will get into that in the Amy run. Yes, we are doing an Amy run as a bonus run. I'll probably have a co-host for that one, though, because I feel like I can't commentate over these levels more than once. At least by myself. I mean, I can commentate. Eggman's hammer does swing up and down. I know I'm jumping around a lot here, but for the boss, it's the fucking first boss of a Sonic game. There's not much to talk about. He swings his hammer back and forth. Once he goes into a pinch phase, this is the first 2D Sonic game with a pinch phase, he would start swinging, like doing cartwheels with his hammer. What an asshole. Secret Base. I almost called it Techno Base. That's later. Secret Base is one of my favorites, and I wish the outdoor section was a lot more used. I mean, the indoor factory part's pretty cool, but that outdoor facility was really fucking cool, and I wish we would have gotten more of it. Really fun section of the level right there. Although I do have there is some good platforming here. The ropes, you just hit up or down and make sure that you're on the upswing or on the downswing. There's our little bounce pads right there. They keep you right there. Hooks you can swing on. I do show off all of the level gimmicks. I don't like how the speed shoes sound in this game. The speed shoes are make the game sound like a fucking nightmare. Yeah, it's not something like the Mega Drive games where it's like they harmoniously got faster as they went along. One of my favorite tracks in the game, Techno Bass Act 1 and Act 2, particularly Act 2, has a really baller track. Be careful of the bubble badnik right there. They're basically how they were in 3 and K, although here they actually have their spikes out a little longer. And that's Act 1 of Secret Base. We're making good time, actually. Secret Base Act 2 brings back those really bastardy platforms from Oil Ocean. They're not as deadly here, though, because I don't think the smoke can hurt you. I've never gotten hit by the smoke. This stage has a special stage in Act 2, and it's coming up near the end of the level. I'd say about halfway. I get speed shoes again here. I don't know, I guess my heart funked sang to me, I guess. But I guess I'm getting back on the topic of my experience with the game. I really liked the game when it came out. There was a little time in my life where I actually was not a big fan of Advanced 1. I was like I was thinking to myself, I'm like, not as bad as Advanced 2. I fucking hate Advanced 2, by the way. We'll get into that when we get into Advanced 2, I don't know, maybe a year from now, maybe. Or maybe even a couple months. But I was not a fan of Advanced 2 because I feel like Advanced 1 feels like the Mega Drive games modernized. Also, here's the second special stage. So when they start putting the bombs in real dick-headed placement. It's an alright... This special stage track's actually pretty alright. But I guess really my big tip with these special stages is aim, I guess, a little high. Like, if you think you're lined up with the rings, you're probably not. So actually get yourself to a point where you feel like you're actually like on the edge of the rings, and you actually will be right on top of them. It's really fucked up because it's like the rings are like in a weird pre-rendered style while you're in like a traditional sprite style. and it causes a lot of confusion, and I have terrible depth perception. It's like, I know some people will call these special stages fairly easy. I'd call them some of the hardest in the series. At least, but I'd say in terms of getting into these special stages, this is the easiest of the trilogy. You just have to find one spring. Advance 2 has the worst method of getting into the special stages in the series. Also, I got the little Lost Chow. Advance 2 was a whole thing where you grabbed like some coins, like something like 9 coins in a fucking level. And I'm like, are you mad? And it's like, the game's mostly about speed in Advance 2. It's not about like pure platforming like this game is, or even Advance 3. Advance 3, well, you have to get all the coins in one run. Advance 3, you have to find 9 Lost Chow, sure. But that game is a little bit more designed around it, and you don't have to get it all in one run. Advance 2 has fairly easy special stages, but we'll get into those when we get into those. Advance 3 is also fairly simple. It kind of goes back to the weird depth perception thing, but I feel like the special stages are a lot slower there to be able to compensate for that. But yes, I would quite like Sonic Advance 1. It would definitely be in like an A tier on a tier list. So it'd be like in the second highest. I prefer Advance 3 to it nowadays because I've also recently played quite a bit of Advance 3, and that's what got me to want to play Advance 1. Because I'm like, well, I'm not going to play 3 until I played 1 and 2. Even though I don't really like 2, I'd still tell you it's the worst 2D Sonic. Maybe. I mean, G-Sonic / Sonic Blast on the Game Gear if you're from America. You know, that game might be worse than Advance 2. So back to this game. This boss, well, don't be scared of the pressure plates. Or don't be scared of jumping once in a while. If you know how to jump, you've pretty much beaten this boss. See, look at this. Make sure you be careful when he does the little shockwave right there. And on his initial front jump, he is invulnerable. That's why I didn't get the bastard right there. But, well, that was part 1 of Sonic Advance. I'll see you in part 2. Also, I love getting crushed by the animal capsules. That's always great. I like it when Sonic games have a little personality. Advance series is full of it. But that was part 1. See you in part 2.